I wasn't supposed to be in that room. That was the first thing my mother said when she saw me standing at the doorway. Not hello. Not you came, just you weren't invited. The room smelled like expensive coffee and polished wood, the kind of quiet wealth that doesn't need to prove itself. My sister Emily was sitting at the head of the table, scrolling through her phone like she owned the air around her. Her fingers moved fast, probably replying to someone on Instagram, maybe posting another story about family time. She didn't even look up when I walked in. She didn't have to. She already knew how this would go. "You got the address wrong?" she said casually, still staring at her screen. "This is a family meeting." I smiled, not because it was funny, because I had heard that sentence so many times, it stopped meaning anything. Family, it was always a word used against me. I was adopted when I was 7, old enough to remember the silence, old enough to understand what it meant when no one came back. They told me I was lucky. They told me I was chosen. They told everyone else I was a charity case. There's a difference. You feel it in the way people talk to you. Or don't. My father finally spoke. "Sit down," he said, without looking at me. Not because he wanted me there, because he didn't want a scene. I pulled out a chair anyway. Slowly, deliberately, the kind of movement that makes people uncomfortable, even when they don't know why. "Emily Sahil, can we just start? I have a dinner at Nobu in an hour." Of course she did. Emily always had somewhere better to be. Better people. Better plans. Better life. At least, that's what everyone believed. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Henderson, tailored suit. Minimal expression. The kind of man who charges more for silence than most people do for talking. Thank you all for coming," he said. All. I noticed that not the family, not the children, just all. My mother crossed her arms. "Let's keep this quick," she said. "We already know how this works." Do they? I wondered, because I had spent the last 6 months making sure they didn't. The will? That's why we were here. My grandfather passed away 2 weeks ago. A man who rarely spoke, rarely smiled, but noticed everything, especially the things people thought he didn't see, like how my mother introduced me. "This is our adopted daughter." Never just daughter. Always a qualifier. A reminder. A line. Emily finally looked up. "For the record," she said, glancing at me. "I don't think this concerns you." There it was. Clean. Sharp. Expected. I leaned back in my chair. "Then it won't hurt to let me stay." She held my gaze for a second. Then she laughed. Soft. Dismissive. Like I was already irrelevant. "Mr." Henderson opened the folder. The room shifted. Not visibly, but you could feel it. Money does that to people. It makes them sit up straighter, talk softer, breathe differently. "Before we begin," he said, "I want to clarify that Mr. Carter made several late amendments to his will." My mother frowned. "What kind of amendments?" "Significant ones." Emily put her phone down. That was new. I didn't move. I already knew. Not the details, but the direction, because I was the only one who had actually visited him, the only one who didn't show up for holidays with a gift bag from Louis Vuitton and leave before dessert, the only one who stayed. Flashback, 3 months ago. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and quiet endings. My grandfather was sitting by the window, watching nothing. Or maybe everything. "You came?" he said, not surprised. Just Noting it. I always do. I replied. He nodded. Then, after a long silence, he asked, "Do they still remind you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He already knew. Back to the room. Mr. Henderson adjusted his glasses. "We will begin with asset distribution." Emily leaned forward, confident, certain. She had been preparing for this her whole life. Private schools, business degree, internship. At a company, my father arranged everything lined up, everything predictable, primary estate holdings. The lawyer continued, including the Manhattan property, the investment portfolio, and controlling shares in Carter Holdings. My mother smiled, just slightly, like she was already spending it. "Will not be distributed in equal shares." That smile disappeared. "What?" my father said. "That's not..." Mr. Henderson raised a hand. "Please allow me to finish." Emily's voice tightened. "Then how are they distributed?" There it was. The first crack. The lawyer turned a page. Slowly, on purpose, the majority of the estate, he paused, looked up, directly at me, has been assigned to a single beneficiary. The room went still, not silent. Still. Emily let out a short laugh. "Oh, please," she said. "This isn't a movie." My mother shook her head. "Dad wouldn't do something like that." I didn't say anything. I just watched them the way you watch a storm you already know is coming. "Who?" my father asked. One word. Tight, controlled, barely. "Mr." Henderson closed the folder, then opened it again. Like even he respected the weight of what came next. He spoke clearly, calmly, without hesitation. "The sole primary beneficiary." Emily leaned forward. My mother stopped breathing. My father clenched his jaw. "Is Miss..." And for the first time in my life, every single person in that room was about to hear my name, without the word. Adopted, attached to it. "Say that again." Emily's voice didn't shake, but something underneath it did. Something sharp. Something dangerous. Mr. Henderson didn't blink. "The sole primary beneficiary of Mr. Beneficiary. Carter's estate." He looked directly at me again. "Is Miss of a Carter." Silence. Not the quiet kind. The kind that feels like something just broke and no one knows how loud it's about to get. Emily laughed. Too fast. Too loud. "Oh my God. This is actually insane." She turned to my parents. "Tell me this is a joke." My mother didn't answer. She was staring at me. Not confused. Not shocked. Calculating. My father stood up. Slow. Controlled. Dangerous. "There's been a mistake." "Mr." Henderson closed the folder halfway. "There is not..." "You're telling me..." My father continued, voice tightening. "That my father left everything..." He gestured toward me. "To her?" There it was. Not my name. Just here. I didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't even blink. Because this part, I had already lived it in my head 100 times. Emily pushed her chair back. "This is ridiculous." She snapped. "She's not even..." She stopped herself. But not fast enough. Everyone heard it. "Not even what? Not even family? Not even real?" I tilted my head slightly. "You can finish that sentence," I said quietly. She glared at me. "I don't need to." "Mr." Henderson spoke again. "There are additional conditions attached to the inheritance." That got their attention immediately. "What conditions?" my mother asked. Now she was leaning forward, interested again. Hopeful. That was fast. "The estate." he continued, including all liquid assets, properties, and controlling shares. He paused. Will remain under Miss Ava Carter's exclusive authority. Emily scoffed. Until when? Mr. Henderson didn't look at her. Indefinitely. That's when everything changed. My father laughed. Loath. Cold. You expect us to believe that my father, who built everything for this family, would hand it over to someone who walked into it halfway through? There it was again. Halfway. Like I was an interruption. A mistake in timing. I leaned forward slightly. 7 years old isn't halfway. I said, he ignored me. Of course he did. Emily grabbed her phone again. Thost? Aggressive. I'm calling our lawyer. You can... Mr. Henderson said calmly. It will not change the document. She stopped typing, looked up. What? The will was revised under full legal supervision. He continued. Multiple witnesses. Medical clearance. No evidence of coercion. Translation, this was airtight. My mother finally spoke too soft of a... I looked at her. Really looked. This time, she only used my name like that when she needed something. This is overwhelming, she said. There it was. The shift from rejection to negotiation in under 30 seconds. You don't have to do anything right now, she continued. We can figure this out together. Together. Now, interesting, Emily snapped. Are you serious right now? She stood up again. She doesn't even understand how any of this works. I almost smiled. Almost. Mr. Henderson spoke before I could. Miss Carter has already attended 3 preliminary meetings regarding the estate transition. The room froze. Again, but this time, it wasn't shock. It was realization. My father turned slowly toward me. You what? I didn't rush, didn't defend, didn't explain. I just met his eyes. I listened. I said, Emily shook her head. No. That's not possible. Grandpa barely spoke to her. That one almost made me laugh. Flash, hospital room, dim light. His voice? Low but clear. They think silence means absence. He told me, it doesn't. Back to the room. Mr. Henderson placed another document on the table. There's also a letter, he said. To be read aloud? My mother's face tightened. A letter? Yes. He unfolded it carefully. This letter was written by Mr. Carter 3 days before his passing. Emily crossed her arms. This should be good. Mr. Henderson began reading. If you are hearing this, it means I was right. The room stilled. Even Emily. I watched this family for years. I watched what they rewarded. I watched what they ignored. My mother's fingers tightened on the edge of the table. I saw who showed up when there was nothing to gain, and who only appeared when there was something to take. Emily shifted. Uncomfortable now. I am not leaving my life's work to the loudest voice in the room. I am leaving it to the one who understood silence. No one moved. No one spoke. My father's jaw clenched. That doesn't prove anything. Mr. Henderson continued. She was never less. That was your word. Not mine. My mother looked away. First time, I didn't choose her because she needed this. I chose her because she doesn't. The letter ended just like that. No dramatic closing, no apology, just truth. Emily laughed again. But this time, it didn't sound confident. It sounded thin. So what? She said. He liked her more. That doesn't mean she gets everything. Mr. Henderson closed the letter. It does. Silence. Heavy, unavoidable. My father leaned forward. Dangerous. This isn't over. He wasn't talking to the lawyer. He was talking to me. Finally, I'm at his chaze. Steady. Controlled. I know. I said, because this was never about the will. Not really. This was just the moment they realized they no longer controlled. The ending. This story contains fictionalized elements for entertainment and educational purposes. No one spoke after the letter, not immediately, because for the first time, this wasn't about money anymore. It was about being seen, and most of them had just realized they weren't. Emily broke first. Okay, I'm done with this. She grabbed her bag, Chanel, of course slung it over her shoulder like this whole thing was beneath her. This is emotional manipulation, she said, shaking her head. He was sick. People say things when they're dying. There it was. Dismissal. The fastest way to protect a fragile ego. My father didn't move, didn't leave, didn't explode, which meant he was thinking, and that was always more dangerous. You met with him? He said slowly. Not a question. A statement. I nodded once. How many times? Enough? His eyes narrowed. That's not an answer. I leaned back slightly. It's the only one that matters. My mother finally stepped in. Aber, that tone. Again, careful, strategic. You should have told us, she said. We're your family. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because of how late it was. I tried. I said. She froze. Just for a second. Flash, 8 years old, standing in the kitchen. I want to visit Grandpa. I said. My mother didn't even turn around. We're busy. Flash, 10 years old. School event. Other kids with parents. Mine empty seats. Emily had a tennis match. That mattered more. Flash. 14. I stopped asking. Back to the room. I stopped telling you things. I continued. When you made it clear you weren't listening. Silence. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was uncomfortable. Emily scoffed. Oh my God. Are we doing this now? Some kind of trauma performance? She rolled her eyes. This isn't about your feelings. This is about the estate. No? I said, and for the first time, my voice cut through hers. Clean, sharp, final. It's about both. Mr. Henderson shifted slightly, not interrupting, just observing, like he knew what was coming next. There's more, he said. Emily groaned. Of course there is. My father didn't look away from me. What now? Mr. Henderson opened another document. This pertains to a private trust. That word changed everything. Trust. Not inheritance. Not distribution. Control. The Carter Family Trust. He continued. Was established 12 years ago. My mother blinked. 12 years? Emily frowned. That's before. She stopped, looked at me. Before I was adopted. Mr. Henderson nodded slightly. Yes. My father's voice dropped. Who was it for? The lawyer didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slid a document across the table. Toward me, I didn't touch it. Not yet. Read it. My father said, I did. Slowly, every word landing exactly where it was supposed to. Then I looked up. It was always in my name. I said, the room didn't react right away. Because it didn't make sense. Not yet. Emily laughed. Okay. Now, I know this is fake. She looked at my parents. You're just gonna sit there and believe this? My mother's face had gone pale. Not angry, not defensive, just off. "That's not possible," she whispered. "It is." "Mr. Henderson said calmly, "The trust was activated the day Miss Ava Carter entered the family. Entered, not born, not raised, entered, like a contract." My father's expression hardened. "Why?" And that was the question that mattered. I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. Mr. Henderson did. "Mr. Carter believed," he said, "that families reveal their truth, not when they gain something." He paused. "But when they are given responsibility for someone who has nothing," no one moved. "He wanted to see," the lawyer continued, "what kind of people you would become." Emily shook her head. "That's insane." "Is it?" I asked quietly. She turned to me, eyes sharp, angry now. "You think this makes you special?" she snapped. "You were a test." That's it. I held her gaze. "Yes." I said, "I was," and that's when it hit her. Because if I was the test, then she already knew what that made her. My mother sat down slowly, like her legs stopped working. 12 years, she whispered. Flash. Grandfather's room. The last time I saw him, you were never the extra piece. He told me. His voice was weaker then, but clearer than ever. They thought they were choosing you. He shook his head. I was choosing them. Back to the present. Emily slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous. Her voice cracked. Finally, we gave her everything, she said. Turning to my parents, a home, a school, a life. You gave me a place? I said, quiet, controlled, not a life. Silence. Again, but different. This time, it wasn't about shock. It was about truth. Finally having nowhere left to hide. My father exhaled, slowly, measured, then he looked at me. Really looked. For the first time, you planned this? He said. I didn't deny it. I prepared. I replied, there's a difference. Emily shook her head, backing away slightly. This is insane. This is actually insane. But she wasn't talking about the will anymore. She was talking about the fact that, for 12 years, the person they treated like an afterthought had been the center of the story the entire time, and they had just failed it. The silence didn't last. It never does. Because people like them don't process loss. They attack it. My father straightened his jacket, controlled, like he had just made a decision. This ends now. Not loud, not emotional, which made it worse. Emily turned toward him immediately. Finally, alignment. What are we doing? She asked. He didn't look at her. Still looking at me. We're fixing this. There it was. Not denial anymore. Strategy. My mother stood up again. But this time, she didn't look at me like I was a problem. She looked at me like I was an obstacle. Ava, she said softly. You don't understand what this kind of responsibility means. I didn't answer. Because this wasn't concern. It was positioning. You're young. She continued. You've never managed something at this level. Carter Holdings alone. She shook her head slightly. It's not something you just step into. Emily smirked. There it is. She leaned against the table, arms crossed. You got lucky, she said. That's it. Lucky. Grandpa felt bad for you. That's not the same as earning it. I looked at her, really looked. You went to Wharton? I said calmly. Right? She blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, she said. I nodded slightly. And you still think this is about luck? That landed harder than she expected. Her expression shifted, not fully angry, but no longer confident. My father stepped in again. Enough. He turned to Mr. Henderson. We'll be contesting the will. Direct. Expected. The lawyer didn't react. You may attempt to... Attempt? What does that mean? My father asked. It means... Mr. Henderson replied calmly, you will lose. Silence. Again, but sharper this time. Emily let out a short laugh. Okay. I'm actually curious now, why are you so confident? Mr. Henderson didn't even look at her. Because your grandfather anticipated this. Of course he did. There's a clause, he continued, specifically addressing any legal challenge. My mother's voice tightened. What clause? The lawyer opened another page. If the will is formally contested, he said, all liquid assets will be immediately transferred into a restricted holding structure. He paused. Accessible only by Miss Ava Carter. Emily's smile disappeared. And, he added, any individual initiating the contest will be permanently excluded from all remaining distributions. That one hit. My father didn't move, didn't speak, but I could see it. He understood. This wasn't just protected, it was weaponized. Emily shook her head. That's insane. That's not even legal. It is... Mr. Henderson said simply. My mother stepped back slightly, processing, recalculating, and then she changed. You wouldn't do that, she said. To me, soft again, almost gentle. You wouldn't cut your own family out. There it was. The pivot from control to guilt. Classic. I tilted my head slightly. You already did, I said. She flinched, not visibly, but enough. Emily stepped forward again, frustration building now. This is ridiculous. She snapped. You're gonna sit there and act like you're better than us? I didn't answer, because that wasn't the point. I mean, look at you, she continued. She gestured toward me, up and down. Subtle, but deliberate. You walk in here like you belong in some luxury boardroom. She laughed. But let's be honest. There it was. You're still the girl we brought in. Not daughter, not sister. Brought in a thing, a transaction. The room didn't react. Not immediately. Because this was familiar. This was how it always sounded. Just more polished. More public. I stood up, slowly, not angry, not defensive, just done sitting. You're right, I said. Emily smirked. She thought she won that one. I was brought in. I took a step forward, and you still had 12 years? Her smile faded. 12 years. I repeated. To prove you deserved everything you were given? I paused. You didn't. Silence. Sharp, clean, final. My father exhaled slowly. This attitude, he said, is exactly why you're not ready for this. There it was. The last angle, discredit. You think sitting quietly and playing victim qualifies you to run a company? He continued. I met his eyes. I think watching you run it does. That landed. Emily looked between us, now uneasy, because this wasn't going the way she expected. None of it was. My mother spoke again, but this time, there was no softness left. If you do this, she said quietly, there's no coming back. Threat, clear, final, family or power. Pick one? I didn't hesitate. I already made that choice. I said, And that's when they understood this wasn't a phase, this wasn't emotion, this wasn't reaction, this was control. And they had already lost it. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about people like them. They don't explode. They coordinate. It started the next morning. I woke up to 17 missed calls, 3 from unknown numbers, 5 from contacts I hadn't heard from in years, 9 from Emily. That alone told me everything. Then I saw the message from a number I didn't recognize. Call me. Urgent. Daniel Reeves, Financial Times. Interesting. I didn't call back. I opened the article instead. Headline: Heir controversy. Questions surround Carter Holdings' sudden transfer of power. Of course, I skimmed. Controlled. Sources close to the family. Unexpected beneficiary. Concerns about influence during final weeks. I stopped reading, not because I was shocked, because I wasn't. They moved faster than I expected, but not faster than I prepared for. Another notification. This time linked in Carter Holdings. Official page, a statement: we are currently reviewing recent developments regarding leadership transition. Neutral tone. Corporate language, but underneath, comment. Hundreds of them. Who is she? Never heard of her. This doesn't look right. Perception. They were shaping it already. I closed the app, then my phone rang again. Emily. I answered, wow. She said immediately. No press release, no statement, nothing. I leaned back. You called me 9 times. I said, that doesn't feel like confidence. She laughed. But it was tight. You really think you can handle this? I didn't answer. Because this wasn't about the company. This was about narrative. You're trending. She continued. Not in a good way. I opened Twitter. She was right. My name, everywhere. Number, adopted heir. Carter scandal. Interesting choice of words. You should see what people are saying. She added. I don't need to. I replied, because I already knew the pattern. Step 1, question legitimacy. Step 2, create doubt. Step 3, isolate. Classic. You know what the funniest part is, Emily said? I stayed silent. You could have avoided all of this. There it was. The offer. Just sign it over. She said casually. Let things go back to normal. Normal? You mean back to where I don't exist? I asked. She didn't hesitate. That worked for everyone. Honest. For once, I almost respected that. No. I said, silence. Then, her tone changed. Completely, okay, she said. Cold now. Then don't say we didn't try. Click. The line went dead. 3 hours later, things escalated. Board meeting. Emergency. Location. Carter Holdings headquarters. Glass building. 40 floors. The kind of place where power doesn't need to raise its voice. I walked in alone. Eyes followed me immediately. Not curious. Not neutral. Judging. 2 executives stopped talking as I passed. One of them whispered, not quietly enough, that's her? I didn't slow down. Conference room, top floor, they were already there. My father, Emily, 3 board members, and someone new, a man in a navy suit. Expensive, calculated. Emily smiled when she saw me. Not warm, not welcoming. Satisfied. You made it, she said. I glanced at the man. Who's that? She leaned back slightly. Our lawyer. Of course. My father spoke. This is Mr. Collins. The man nodded. We've filed a formal inquiry into the estate transition. aggressive. You already tried that. I said. He smiled slightly. We're not contesting the will. Pause. We're challenging your capacity to lead. There it was. Different angle, same goal. Emily crossed her arms. You think you can just walk in here and run a billion-dollar company? I looked around the room, at the board, at the people who built their careers under my grandfather, watching, waiting, testing. I said calmly. You're trying to remove me before I get the chance. Mr. Collins stepped forward. This isn't personal. It always is. This is about stability. He continued. Public confidence is already declining. I almost smiled, because now it was clear. They weren't just reacting. They were orchestrating media, board, legal, all aligned, all moving at once. You're saying, I replied, that I'm the risk. Yes, he said. Honest. Again. Emily leaned forward. You don't belong here. She said quietly. Not loud. Not dramatic. But sharp enough to cut. I looked at her. Then at my father. Then at the board. And for a moment, I said nothing. Let them sit in it. The doubt, the pressure, the expectation that I would break. Then I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table, simple, unbranded, but heavy. What's that? My father asked. I slid it toward him. Something Grandpa prepared. I said, that got their attention. Immediately, Emily's expression shifted. What is it? She asked. I met her eyes. Steady, the part. I said, he didn't trust you to handle. Silence. Different this time. Because for the first time since this started, they weren't the only ones who had made a move. No one touched the folder. Not immediately. Because they all felt it. This wasn't a reaction. This was a counterattack. My father finally reached for it. Careful. Like it might explode. He opened it, and everything changed. The first page wasn't legal. It wasn't financial. It was internal. Carter Holdings Executive Audit Summary, confidential. My father's jaw tightened. Emily leaned closer. What is that? She asked. He didn't answer because he was reading, and the deeper he went, the worse it got. Where did you get this? He said finally. Low. Controlled, but cracked. I didn't. I replied. I let the silence stretch. He did. Emily frowned. Grandpa? I nodded. He started the audit 3 years ago. Shock. Real this time. That's not possible. My mother said, we would have known. No. I said, you wouldn't? Because that was the point. Mr. Collins stepped forward. This document, if real, would require verification. Of course, delay. Discredit. I expected that. Page 4. I said, my father flipped and stopped completely because page 4 was signatures. Third-party firm. Independent, verified. Emily grabbed the folder from him. Her eyes scanned fast. Too fast. Then slowed. No? She whispered. There it was. The crack. What? My father snapped. She didn't answer. So he took it back and read the line she couldn't say out loud. Unauthorized fund reallocations traced to executive discretionary accounts. Silence. Then, another line, repeated pattern over 26 months. And then, names. Not vague, not hidden, direct. My father, Emily. The room shifted instantly. Not emotionally, structurally. Because now, this wasn't family conflict. This was liability. This is a setup, Emily said quickly. Too quickly. Someone planted this. Who? I asked. She didn't answer. Because there wasn't one. My father stood up. This meeting is over. No, I said, and for the first time, my voice carried authority. Not volume, authority. It's just starting. Mr. Collins stepped in. You cannot present unverified accusations. I didn't. I said. I pulled out my phone, tapped once, and turned it toward them. Live stream. Already active. Boardroom. Everything. Broadcasting. Emily froze. What the hell is that? Transparency. I said. Her face drained. You can't do that. I already did. The room shifted again. Because now, this wasn't internal anymore. This was public. My phone buzzed. Notifications exploding, view count climbing. Comments flooding. What's happening? Is this real? Carter scandal live? Mr. Collins stepped forward again. This is a violation of what? I asked calmly. He stopped because he knew. There wasn't one, not legally. Not if I was the majority stakeholder, which I was. My father looked at me. Really looked, and for the first time, he understood. You planned this? He said. I didn't deny it. You attacked first? I replied. Silence. Heavy. Then, I continued, you went to the media? You questioned my legitimacy. You tried to remove me before I could speak. I took a step forward. So now, I gestured slightly to the room. Everyone gets to hear everything. Emily shook her head, panicking now. This is insane. Turn it off. I didn't move. Instead, I opened another file, projected it onto the screen behind me. Emails. Internal. Time-stamped. Conversations between Emily and senior staff. Discussions about diverting funds, hiding reports, delaying audits. The room went dead silent. Because this time, it wasn't numbers. It was intent. Clear, undeniable. This is fake, Emily snapped. I didn't look at her. I looked at the board. Check it. I said, one of them already was. Laptop open. Hands moving fast. Then he stopped, looked up, and didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His face said it all. My father's voice dropped. Emily. She didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say. My phone buzzed again. Trending. Now global. Number. Carter leak. Number corporate fraud. The narrative had flipped completely. Mr. Collins stepped back. No longer confident. We need to contain this. He said. You can't. I replied, because this was never meant to be contained. I turned off the screen. Not the stream. Just the evidence. Let it sit. Let it breathe. Then I looked at my father. You wanted to fix this. I said. I paused. This is what fixing it looks like. Silence. But this time, it wasn't resistance. It was collapse. And for the first time since this began, they weren't trying to take control anymore. They were trying to survive. No one spoke, not because they didn't want to, but because there was nothing left to control. The stream was still live. And now, millions were watching. Not guessing, not speculating. Watching. Emily realized it first. Her eyes snapped to my phone. How many people are seeing this? She asked. I glanced down, then back at her. Enough. That was worse than a number, because enough meant this wasn't containable anymore. This is illegal, she said. Louder. Now, You can't broadcast private. Stop, my father said. Sharp, immediate. She froze because even he knew that argument was over. Too late. The damage wasn't coming. It had already arrived. One of the board members stood up, older, experienced, the kind of man who had seen crises before, but not like this. We need to address the board, he said. Not to me. To my father, careful choice. Because he still didn't know who to answer to. My father didn't respond. He was still staring at the documents. Like if he looked long enough, they might change. They won't, I said quietly. He looked up, and for the first time, there was no authority left in his eyes. Just realization. Another board member spoke. You authorize these transfers? Direct. No titles, no respect buffer. My father hesitated. That was everything. Because hesitation is confession when the truth is already visible. Emily stepped in. He didn't do anything wrong. She snapped. These are misinterpretations. Then explain them. The board member cut in. She opened her mouth and stopped because she couldn't, not without making it worse. The room shifted again. But this time, not toward tension, toward distance. You could feel it. People physically leaning back, not wanting to be associated. Not wanting to be next. My phone buzzed again. I didn't need to check. I already knew this wasn't just trending anymore. This was becoming a case. Mr. Collins spoke again. But softer now. We need to suspend operations temporarily. Of what? One of the board members asked. He didn't answer because everything was already suspended. Control, authority, reputation. Emily laughed suddenly. Sharp, unstably. This is insane, she said. She looked at me. You think you've won? I didn't answer. Because this still wasn't the end. You just destroyed everything, she continued. The company, the family, everything. I stepped closer, not aggressive, not emotional, just present. No, I said, quiet. I showed what was already broken. Silence. Heavy. Then, one of the board members spoke. We're initiating an internal investigation, effective immediately. Formal. Final. Another voice followed. And both of you. He looked at my father, then Emily, are suspended pending review. There it was. The fall. Not dramatic. Not loud. Official. Which made it permanent. Emily's face went pale. You can't do that, she said. But even she didn't believe it. Because she understood something now. Power isn't what you say. It's what people agree to follow. And no one was following her anymore. My father didn't argue, didn't defend himself, didn't even look at Emily. He just sat there, still, like a man who had just realized he wasn't the one holding the room anymore. The stream kept running, and now the comments had changed. Not curiosity, not confusion, judgment, arrest them, disgusting. She exposed everything. The narrative was complete. Emily looked at me one last time, and this time, there was no arrogance, no sarcasm, no control, just anger, Raf. You think this ends here? She said. I held her gaze, steady. No. I said, and that was the most honest thing I'd said all day. Because this wasn't the end, this was the moment everything stopped moving, right before it broke completely. I reached for my phone, paused the stream, not ended, paused. Because some things aren't for the world. Not yet. The room went quiet. No more shouting, no more defense. Just silence. The kind that only exists after everything has already fallen apart, and in that silence, I finally understood something they didn't lose today. They lost years ago. They just didn't know it yet. I turned toward the door. No rush, no hesitation, and walked out, leaving them with nothing left to hold on to. This story contains fictionalized elements for entertainment and educational purposes. 3 weeks later, everything was quiet. No more headlines. No more live streams. No more chaos. Just consequences. Carter Holdings didn't collapse. That was the part people didn't expect. It stabilized faster than anyone predicted. Because once you remove corruption, systems don't break. They breathe. The board restructured leadership, interim committees were formed, audits expanded, and for the first time in years, everything was transparent, clean. I didn't rush in, didn't claim the spotlight. I let the system settle. Because real control doesn't need to be loud. Emily disappeared first. No statements, no interviews, just silence. Her accounts went inactive. Her name quietly removed from internal records. Like she had never been there. My father stayed longer. Of course he did. Men like him don't walk away. They wait for a chance to regain ground. But there wasn't one. The investigation confirmed everything. Every transfer, every decision signed, approved, traceable. Final. He resigned 2 weeks later. No speech. No explanation. Just a document. Clean, formal, empty. My mother tried to call twice. I didn't answer. Not out of anger. Just clarity. The house was sold. Quietly. No public listing. No announcement. Just. And then there was the final meeting. Boardroom. Same room. Same table. But this time, different energy. Not tension. No resistance. Just expectation. I walked in, not as the girl they brought in, not as the name on a document, but as the one they now had to answer to. One of the board members stood, Miss Carter. He said, not ava, not informal. Respect. Earned. We're ready to proceed with the final transition. I nodded, took my seat, and for a moment, I said nothing. Let the silence settle. Because silence, used correctly, is power. Then I opened the final document, not the will, not the audit. Something else, prepared long before any of this. Before we move forward, I said calmly, there's one more thing. The room stilled. I slid copies across the table, a few brows furrowed. What is this? One of them asked. A restructuring directive. I said, simple, but not small. Carter Holdings will be divided into 3 independent entities. That got their attention, each operating under separate oversight. I looked around the room. No single person, I continued, will ever have unchecked control again. Silence. Processing. Because this was the opposite of what they expected. Power. Distributed. Protected. Permanent. You're giving up control? Someone asked. I met his eyes. No, I said. I'm making sure no one can abuse it. That landed, not loud, but deep. On bewan. They nodded. Not because they had to, because they understood. This wasn't revenge. This was correction. The meeting ended quickly. No arguments, no resistance. Just agreement. I stayed behind. Alone. In the same room where everything had fallen apart. And for a moment, I allowed myself to feel it. Not victory. Not satisfaction. Just Stillness. My phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. I opened it. I was wrong about you. No name, but I didn't need one. I stared at it for a second, then deleted it. Because closure doesn't come from them. It never did. I stood up, walked to the window. The city stretched out below, endless, moving, unaffected, and that's when I realized this was never about taking something from them. They were given everything, and still, they chose to lose it. I turned, walked out, no hesitation. No looking back, because for the first time, I wasn't leaving as the girl they adopted. I was leaving as the one who rewrote the ending